And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for game number 1, our best of 3 series, Navi versus G2. Beautiful graphics that we have here and a merry time that we're having in the studio. Welcome back. What an office for us to be at over the past couple of weekends, and especially this weekend with everything having been put up. Theme music, we even have a dancing Santa that shows up on the screen every now and then. Who would have thought that it would put in so much effort for all of that? Big thanks to our production team for it. But welcome back to the desk. I'm Medic. With me are Hap and Fresh, and we're going to talk about this first matchup to see how things would go. First up, Navi in this game that did not really show up, or definitely not so present last week. Can they do it now? Fresh, it's your local team.
I hope so. And we've seen Navi inside of... I'll talk about them in UKIN. Just to preface this, is you can talk about EU finals as a preparation for SI.
Okay.
And Navi, when they're inside of UKIN, which is potentially a tournament to nothing for some of the other UL teams, they still try the hardest to win it. They still want to win everything they possibly can. They might not show the full strategy, but they still try hard. They still try to play good Siege together. And what I want to see out of Navi is to fix a couple of those mistakes from last week that we did see out of them, and at least go on and win the consolidation prize as such. And, you know, you see here, they've got Doki. Doki's by far and away their best player, alongside Blair.
But they got Santa on there.
And Santa as well. And I will say is that their mid to late game is what costs them.
Yes,
I'm disappointed. That is, everybody with a beard is Santa, apparently. First year, now secretly.
Everybody that doesn't have hair is Pulse. Like
Ace.
Ace. Or,
Preparing right now, currently.
He's got a ponytail, but that
is true. But
you've not seen it yet. So what are your thoughts then on Navi's time?
I mean, I hope that they're preparing for SI. I hope that this is not the performance they will get into SI with, because that will be very detrimental for EU.
They want to go into SI on a win, right?
Yeah,
well, yes, they do want to. But at the same time, if they play like they did against Empire, I'm just not going to see it happen. I just hope that those were an off day or something like that, because otherwise
it's gotta be.
It has to be. Otherwise, I'm really worried.
Even through stage 3, they had a bad stage 3, but they weren't that bad that we saw out of them last week. Like, it just has to get better for them. And
that was stage 2 rogue.
Yeah,
kind of bad.
They will have put work in. Don't get me wrong. They will have put work in. They will have somewhat identified some of their issues and tried to put out a better performance today. And
you know, when you look at it though, from the other point of view, is that G2 really pushed BDS to the edge. You might say, oh, they're coming in. They should be hot off of that performance. But if you watch them in the qualifiers for 6 Invitational, you're thinking,
yeah, but
is it really the same?
No. Qualifiers are very different from Tier 1 play.
They are.
You're not wrong, but
because these are teams they know. Yeah, but these are teams they know, teams they play against every single time, potentially even scrim against every now and then. Whereas the open qualifier teams, you've heard of NNA, where
God, NAL last night,
FPL Queens managed to destroy 3 of the Tier 1 teams.
Let's go.
They said they play a style of Siege that we just aren't prepared for, and I think that might be the same with some of the Tier 1 European teams, that they are not ready for.
The team that G2 most recently lost to, it had a UL experience on it. You know, Vito was playing.
Yeah, of course.
Not Mission. Andreezy, was it?
Yeah.
Who played for VP. So it's a team that has experience, and the problem with G2 across both of the open qualifiers and the Fed map last week is their Achilles heel of not being able to function as a team and do the roles that you can see what they want to do, but they're just so out of alignment and out of kind of team cohesion that they're not achieving what they want to achieve.
Here's a roster, just to put it in your minds: Virtue, Citizen, Kayak, Hungry, and Yonka. And for me, a big surprise in the last week was Yonka's performance. Despite the loss versus BDS, really stepped up to the plate and really showed off. The 2 German players in general really stepped up, and that's what we needed. That's what we wanted to see from G2, Fresh.
Yeah, but it's sprinklings, and that's what I'm kind of going to go into this saying, is that Yonka turned up, Hungry turned up a little bit in the games last week, but Virtue hasn't, and sometimes Kayak hasn't. And again, they're all sitting at this kind of lower base level, and you see the EPPs there in the 90s, so 4 of their players are below average. And then 1 in every 5 games, we might see one of them step up. They need to raise that level collectively, so they're sitting at around 100 EPP, because that's a stable base to work from the team.
I mean, that's exactly that, right?
Yeah.
If only one of the players is above 100, then something isn't really going too well here. So, and as you said, it's sprinkling. You cannot just choose one game at a stage where you're popping off. You need to make sure that you're there for 5, 6 games and then have one off game maybe. That is what you truly want. You need to make sure that your team is focusing and playing on a consistent level at all times.
And our head-to-head then, who are the 2 players that we picked for this matchup? Let's put them up on the screen for you to see. It's Virtue and Doki. Well, how do we end up with these 2 here?
So the reason that we wanted these 2 players is we want to talk about the entries for both teams. Now, Doki, and we'll talk about the issue that both teams have been suffering. So Na'Vi, very, very good on the entry. Look at Doki's stats, incredible on the entry. It's the play behind him once he's opened up that space that isn't so good and that's losing them rounds. G2's problem, or one of the problems in my opinion, is the lack of a pure entry player. And you look at Virtue's stats, you know, he's kind of a little bit negative. That survival amount, when he's tried to step up at times to be the entry, you know, there's been a few kind of role shifts, I would say. And G2's lack more of a full dedicated entry player is kind of costing them, because then they're somewhat getting lost in the rounds. They don't have anyone that goes in and makes space. So the 2 teams and the entries are creating different problems within each team, I would say.
G2 originalist out there, I remember the old Kanto days when he first was brought on for the Atlantic City finals. He was the entry. Things changed. You got Uno that was on the team, and then they kind of shared that position, and then it kept swapping away until Virtue was brought in after SI. Like, there's a lot of things that came into play here, Hap, but what about today?
I mean, many people would also say, by the way, just quickly point back, Citizen, right? He's their entry, but he's more of a lurk player.
Yeah.
He's not really their entry. He's often sneaking in the shadows, trying to make or go for a big play. And as you said, that's what they're truly missing.
And Virtue can do it as well. We've seen Virtue do it more so on his Fnatic days. Is that he can be that one that goes in, takes them first engagements and makes the space. And I think and we saw this out of G2 in the first couple of maps last week, is different people were taking on the mantle of trying to be the entry. We saw Yonka go for entry picks against BDS. We saw Kayak do it a little bit. When that happens, that's why we saw Citizen break the kill record, is because he plays off the back of that. And that's where he has that time to shine. And I think that'll be the problem that G2 potentially want to address going into next year.
Well, we are getting close to our game. How about then we see which maps we're going to be playing on again? It's a best of 3 series, which means it's ban, pick, ban, and then our decider. G2 have gone for Chalet first, where they start on defense. Bank is up next with Na'Vi starting on defense. And finally, Clubhouse to decide it all. Na'Vi start on the attacking side. Overall thoughts, Hap, on our map picks?
See, again, I'm going to be saying it's difficult to see or to say whether or not it's going to be good for one team or not, considering G2, nothing to play for except for these finals. Na'Vi, everything to lose at the hands of SI, so to say. I don't know. I think again, G2 will have it, not per se on map picks, but more so due to their performance against BDS.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the maps, both teams have picked their comfort map.
Yeah.
G2 love Chalet. Na'Vi really like playing Bank. Interestingly, Na'Vi did play G2 on Bank in stage 3 and wiped the floor with them. And I'm not sure if that's map specific, but just a little token is that G2 Na'Vi on Bank, it did go quite heavily in the way of Na'Vi, with Doki having one of the best days of his life on that particular day.
Let's focus in then on Chalet. You say G2's comfort map. Why is that the case?
I think it's a very simple map to attack. I think a lot of G2's issues that they have are on attack and coordination on the attack particularly. So the maps that they tend to gravitate towards are the maps that are very easy to cut flanks, for example. So say they're attacking the master bedroom side, or a lot of their attacks can start from the solarium, or they actually start a lot of their attacks in the garage going up. So they focus around one staircase, they don't get flanked, and they can keep their attacks very simple, and that's why it becomes a better map for G2.
What do you think about that?
I need to sneeze. All right, no, I don't. Don't throw it to me now. I need to sneeze. I've been sneezing the entire time.
You've
so
not
far.
got the custom.
No,
mic
I don't got a mute button.
You've got these ones.
Outrageous. I just need to plug out for it.
I just talked to production doing hello. Wait, hello.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Go ahead.
Where were we? I forgot.
G2.
G2. Yes. All right. Sorry. I mean, those problems, they exist. That's what they try and work on. It's going to be interesting, though, because the defense on Chalet is not particularly famous for being very successful for many teams.
Yeah.
So they will need to make their defining mark on the attack, which is their weak point at that same point. So it's a bit difficult. I'm not too convinced if we talk about it like that, but I still think G2 will have it if they play like they did against BDS.
Operator ban-wise, is there anything that G2 can use up in this to kind of soften the blow?
It's a difficult one, and
I mean,
just sneeze, pick it up.
No, I'm not going to sneeze. I'm going to
let it out, man.
No, I'm here to
yourself onto
bruise
an
my
operator.
ribs even
Happy
more and keep it in.
There we go. I think, yeah, go on.
No.
It's hard operator-wise, specifically when the problem that G2 might have is Doki and Blair. If Doki and Blair are on their day, they're going to be pulling very early entry kills out. So it's not necessarily operator bans, it's potentially operator picks that they might want to pick to slow that entry game down from Na'Vi.
I think information game is going to be important. Try and play as much around cameras, around information as you possibly can. Not just to guide Citizen to these skills, but to aid the rest of the team as well, of course, because if they seem to be struggling with the same issues that they were before, I'm talking Na'Vi, you want to have that information just to lock them out. So Valkyrie, Mozzie, block their drones with the mute. Try and play that kind of meta.
But Citizen can just roam on a smoke solo, and he lurks, and he gets skills. Does information even matter when you have to
The
play
rest of the
against
team
him?
needs it.
The rest of the team, yeah. We're not worried about Citizen right now.
Fair enough. It's been a recurring subject, but our lobby is ready. Our game is set, so we're going to toss it then to our casters. Jack, Hap, thank you very much. We got map 1 ready for you. It's Chalet, G2's pick, and they go off on defense. Let's see what Ace and Dez have to tell. Our story is ready. Let's enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Milos. The bell is ringing for one of these two teams to finish the season in 4th place, another in 3rd. It's not quite our grand final, but what a warm-up match it is, Ace.
I wasn't quick enough. As that bell started ringing, I thought I should have been like ringing a bell, but I just wasn't quick enough. Maybe for map 2.
Nice
If
shirt,
you
by
do
the way,
that transition. I know, it's very similar to yours. What
is
an
it really?
absolute belter. Yeah,
Weird that, isn't it?
beautiful. How do we build that synergy?
It's one of those.
But for those at home thinking they're just white shirts, shut up, guys. They're actually the exact same white shirt with the same pattern. So.
Righty, G2 versus Na'Vi. It feels like a classic showdown, but for both teams, probably a stage 3 to forget. And for one of these teams, probably also a stage 2 when you look back at how history has treated them so far this year. But I'm excited to see how it plays out, because you and I were sat talking about Chalet just before this got underway, and we said, that's a little bit of a dicey pick coming out from G2, because Na'Vi quite like this map as well. We've seen them wipe the floor with a few teams here. So we kind of reasoned for G2 it was more comfort and worrying about their own strengths than strictly worrying about what Na'Vi are also strong on.
Absolutely, but as you say, it's one of those maps. Is it maybe a little bit neutral? It's not the end of the world. G2, you just got to come in here and you got to prove a point. If you want to get better as a roster, you want to, show that stage 3 was a little bit of a blip. Now's the time. It's as good as any to start showing that. They didn't have a bad performance.
I was going to say the Buck ban itself.
Steal.
I like it because Buck has, over the last few months or so, has really grown in popularity on this map for very understandable reasons. The vast majority of it has soft ceilings and floors. But we all know about the pressure that he can put inside a solo by going into garage, blasting his way up through 2 floors and stopping a player from playing on the half wall or generally on the solar stairs themselves. Flores is going to be the next ban that comes through, so going to speed things up a little bit. I do love Flores, do agree he's very strong, but know that the games can slow down as a result of him being in place. A smoke ban coming in is really spicy. So lots of things here so far I'm seeing are looking to speed things up. I'd love to see like a Malusi ban maybe coming out of G2 here as well, but at the same time they kind of want to use that for themselves and slow Na'Vi down. So it's a, do we want to lean into it? Yes or no? I guess we'll see.
Lots of back and forth going on in the game chat there as well. Kayak just suggesting that they've counter-stolen the smoke ban. That maybe that's something that G2 had lined up, but they're going to go for Wamai instead. As Fresh touched on at the beginning of the pre-show segment, potentially Na'Vi might look to play into that entry game of players like Dorky here and taking away players like Smoke as much as you don't want to use those Toxic Babe canisters at the beginning of a round. As you say, it's just allowing that possibility for speeding the round up, and that might just play into the hands of Dorky on, that entry role going in. We've got Nath picking up No, sorry, Dorky on the Iana. We've got the player cams mixed up at the bottom there.
Oh, we do indeed, yeah.
But Dorky is on the... I was going to say, Nath picking up the Iana, question mark?
Exception.
No, Dorky picking up the Iana, and that could be exactly what he's looking to do. Just get in the map, self-sufficient, nades, kills, and get it going.
I think what's quite clever from Na'Vi here is in banning away smoke, you're basically guaranteeing that you're going to see Citizen playing on the Melusi for the almost entirety of this half. On this map, he was one of the first players to bring out the FMG smoke. Now, you hear that and you think, why on earth would you bring FMG smoke specifically on this map? And Citizen was very kind enough to tell us on an interview why that was. He simply said we needed a shield, and we didn't really want to bring Warden, so we thought, well, Frost is already in the lineup, let's bring the smoke, and we don't really want to play him with an SMG, so stick an FMG on him, play him as a perimeter player, normally around mezzanine, and away you go. So I do like that target ban coming in, but again, it does mean you're likely going to see Citizen sticking on the Melusi for the entirety of this half.
Heading into round number 1 then, we're going to have the first defensive site from G2, which will be dining and kitchen. So they're going to that mid-floor. Now, what are you going to see from the attackers here?
I don't know,
What is
tell
gonna
me.
Well, I'm going to do this. Just you let me. You try and stop me. The attackers here are going to try and get hold of the top floor. They may well choose to come in from library mezzanine. Tell you what, they're not going to be getting hold of much at this rate. Citizen steps out with a big headshot onto saves to start us off, and that's the Thatcher gone, Des. They get excited that Thatcher for once is not banned out. They bring him along. He might as well have been banned. Citizens just banned him.
How many kills did he get again last week? 55, was it? 56?
55, I think the final total was.
Well, he's going for another record break today, I'm sure. Doki finding one back onto Yonka elsewhere. So a 4 versus 4 to 2. I don't want to say dedicated entry players. We know that Doki is more like the tip of a spear. Citizen, more hiding in the shadows at times. A punch out immediately. They know there's a player out here. It is Doki, and if he gets himself into a slither of the wrong spot, he will get himself sprayed down. Staying alive at least for now. Trades a couple of shots back. But these two old Na'Vi boys, of course, not forgetting that Citizen used to be a teammate alongside Doki, going at each other, only for Virtue to join in the 2v1 and get Doki shut down.
Absolutely.
Beautiful play.
Virtue must have been... That's absolute pixel sniffing there. He's been right up nose pressed against the monitor to see that one as Doki appears at the window and he gets him shut down. But to very quickly finish what I was saying, the attackers are looking to get control over top floor. They want master bedroom, they want office, because that's where the verticals are. Defenders can stop a plant going down quite easily if they're still in control of that top floor. So as you can see now, Blur got himself established on the trophy stairs, and it's all looking to push from this side and force those defenders out of the top floor.
It's going to be a pacing thing here. It's good that they've got this top floor control at least established inside. Citizen, sit down! Great shot coming out, and 8-3 versus 3 sets in. It's just already blows back and forth between both teams.
This is exactly what we want to see from these two. There's friends on both sides, but there's no friends inside of Chalet, Des. They are going in and looking to absolutely murder each other. They are wreaking havoc inside of round 1 already, and hopefully this is what we're going to see for every single map today. These two just coming in and just finishing off 2021 with a bang.
Just wailing away on each other is what we want to see from this series. And here we go. Hungry's got the waiting point. Sure, the frost mat's gone, but the player himself is not. An easy kill comes through. Hungry almost getting himself tickled down. It is a 2 versus 2 for a couple of seconds, unless secretly can be res, and I'm sure Blur should be able to get him back on his feet. But you've got to worry about the vertical. Hungry finding one up there as well, doing a great job inside of kitchen. Blur is all alone unless he can get secretly back on his feet, and we've got about 20 seconds still to play with, Tim.
Very unlikely at this point. He's going to have to do the heavy lifting himself here. There's a man just hard right of this rotate. I don't think he knows. He comes through, he sprays him down, but no. Hungry manages to get that kill on the rotation, and this finish on secretly comes through as well as he downed him previously. And that's going to be G2 taking round number 1 on the defense, and that is a good start for every single neutral fan at home, because we would often expect the attackers to have a little bit of joy here on Chalet, but if G2 can come in and start getting these defensive rounds, I tell you what it does mean. It means that we are in for a competitive game here today, and we've got some of the most entertaining players on either side of this game, as we've just seen. The kills from Citizen, from Doki, Virtue, all coming in. Absolute belters. Nice headshot from Nath as well, and this could be setting up for a big, big day today.
I love how for Hungry, by the way, he got a 3K from inside of that kitchen on the hatch, and the 2 players on the downstairs, secretly, of course, being one of them. Just a really good play by him, tucking himself in behind the island in the middle of the room as well to get himself the kill onto secretly. Overall, just very, very clean play. But probably a bit unusual for these teams is that felt like a very calculated and slow round. Na'Vi never really stepping past, for example, Solar stairs, downside from Trophy, from Solar in towards the north side itself. There was gunfights being exchanged, but no real massive map control coming out of Na'Vi. They were just happy with the north side, and G2 were all too happy to entertain that and say, if you want that control, at least we know that you're boxed in. We can deal with you from range from there. But a great first round.
Always interesting to keep an eye on where the Frost traps are. Jonker bringing along Frost this time around. We've got one on the double window into Library. But, you know, you look at those Frost traps, you think, are these players getting caught up in them? Well, you better believe that they do. And caught up in a battle with each other right now are Doki and Virtue, both taking about half of their hit points away from each other. And they're going to decide that enough is enough at that point and back away from the fight.
I'm sure they are, Tim. For Doki, that's really aggressive, given secretly went down in that position on that vault in the previous round. I think he's got, you know, big gonads to go for a vault like that, but they make it work. 2 kills coming in, secretly and saves, and here comes Citizen on the run out, but secretly with a wonderful shot onto the revealed Citizen, brings him down. Support players can frag out too, it turns out, Tim.
Certainly it does. Just, you know, not always in my games. My games, it's largely purely support that you bring in.
All you got to bring, mate.
Sometimes just emotional, to be honest. I don't even get the diffuser.
There is a lot of that in our stats,
I'm just
Tim.
there for the vibes. Looking to hold on to Library Stairs still is Jonker on that Frost, but G2 right now, they have got their work cut out for them. Found themselves in a 2 versus 5 and a lot of time left on the clock. Slowly but surely, Na'Vi are just going to turn the screws here. They're just going to increase that pressure and make it less and less comfortable for these G2 players to continue playing in the spots they are. The first job for Na'Vi is to clear this shield out from in front of Jonker so that he can't get aggressive. There it comes. Nade finishes it off just as secretly finds the other, and that is going to be the round for Na'Vi. And just as I suggested after round 1, I think this is going to go back and forth.
Feels like it, or you might just see Na'Vi start to warm into this on attack. Obviously worth stressing that on Chalet we do see generally a very attacker-sided map. It is quite thin and narrow. There isn't large potential for flanks to come through. You can watch those couple of staircases that are pivotal to you having control of the top floor. I did wonder if we'd actually see them go into bar and gaming here, because that is widely considered to be the best defensive site on this map. So it feels like G2 have sort of taken Na'Vi for a bit of a ride, rotating through 2 sites prior and then finally settling into the one that many see as the de facto go-to. And maybe you're asking, why is that? Well, that's normally because teams will set up defensively at the top of Library Stairs. They'll stick one on Mezzanine and hold a crossfire into the Library hallway. You're likely to see Na'Vi come in from Solar side, work their way all the way down through the map, try and clear out Library, and then finally think about trying to execute onto the site. It just means that G2 have got large parts of the map to play around here, and you have to break the top floor first because it is just so safe to defend that site from inside a split behind a mirror window, for example, to be able to sit inside a bar uncontested. You need that map control if you're the attackers here.
Well, it leaves the attackers with a lot to do, does this defence as well. And, you know, we often say in Siege, the clock is the 6th man for the defence. You know, ultimately, the defenders could sit there for 3 minutes, not get a kill, and win the round. The onus is on the attackers to go in there and get that job done. And quite often, the rounds that we see defences picking up are the rounds that get down to 10 seconds left to go, and the attackers have to rush that final execute. So it is largely all about burning time and playing into that big advantage of the clock that you have as a defender. So here it's about setting up as many obstacles as you can for the attackers to get through. As you said, they're going to push through Solarium. They'll get Master Bedroom quite quickly and easily, but then getting into Office, getting into Library Corridor, that's where the difficulty amps up.
See this again, seeing that step in from Doki, no problem at all. I should course correct, by the way, they did play bar and gaming in the last site, so ignore everything I said a minute ago. But here I'd hope to see G2 digging back a little bit further, maybe not playing so aggressive, I say that, and then Virtue steps up and gets the entry. Wonderful start, given again, Doki was given a little bit of a free pass inside a trophy in the last round.
I love to see this for Virtue. We're seeing him come in there, get involved in those entry fights, nice and confident. You know, it's fair to say his performances have been up and down through EUL, particularly towards the back end, and we've not seen that confident gunner coming out of him that we know that he is, you know, the capability we know he's got. So seeing him here on the Mozzie, getting around the map, you know, he lost out on that fight last time around. It was secretly, ultimately, that got the kill, but Doki went in there, they had the pinch on him, and they got him closed out, but this time he goes straight back in there and gets that opener, so big play there from Virtue. Na'Vi, they've got control up as far as Library Staircase, but they still haven't dealt with the shield of Kayak.
They want to get rid of the shield,
you go.
and there we go.
Thank
Very
you,
comfortable.
Na'Vi.
Yeah. get control of the office, blast it out through the soft wall. Nice and easy. Worth stressing, by the way, they have got 3 bulletproofs on the side of G2, and you can see the dead players flicking between these here, giving them the information they need. I don't think they have any Mozzie drones captured. I haven't seen a player step onto a drone yet. Just the default cams and just those bulletproofs.
Interestingly, you've just seen one of those bulletproof cameras. If you haven't watched for a little while, you might think, what's going on with that camera? Great shot from Hungary there. So the bulletproof cameras have recently had a little buff whereby they can now be moved, so they can change that point of view, and they also have a short EMP burst, so they can take out drones, they can stop them working, they can stop gadgets working. So a little bit of a change to that utility, and teams starting to embrace it secretly, embracing violence there as he gets in and finds a kill onto Hungary inside a library. Nath established on those library stairs. Na'Vi are starting to apply the pressure here, Des. They might not have all the men, but they're starting to find all the angles.
The vertical control was what they were looking for, and with that now established, absolutely the attention turns downstairs as long as they're watching out for flanks, and it's Blur currently holding off towards the library flank. Mainstairs has got a couple of players hanging around. It's a no big concern here, but they want to get rid of another player or two. No! Nath! No!
That's exactly how it happens, though.
And this is too late. It is. It's the same like contracts can be set exactly the same, right? At this point, the round is done and dusted. He's in a 1v4. He can't get away with it. An easy close out for G2.
In your ADS. And that is how it happens. And of course, the players are in the ADS because these gunfights are over so quickly. They've got to be ready to challenge. But it's always a risk because it takes up a lot of real estate on your screen. Does that big scope in front of you. And if you lose those frost mats in there, that is what will happen. They have a nasty bite when they snap shut on the leg.
They do. Round 4, we step back into where it all kicked off. Back in kitchen and dining. Hungary going back across onto the frost. So starting to see where the preferences lie for these teams kind of between the rounds. And an interesting 6th pick coming in as well. We're going to see the Valkyrie coming out here. Now you may be wondering, okay, well, why is that interesting? One, they've got the Maestro as well. They've basically got 5 cameras they can scatter around the map here and use to inform them. Why are they doing that? 1, a little bit for the site, but 2, because they aren't bringing as many bulletproofs. There's only the 1 on Virtue in this round. Otherwise, they're leaning in towards playing on the C4s, understandably for the site that we're on, plus a couple of impacts coming in for Kayak. So a bit of a change up for G2. Clearly want to try and revive a couple of ideas from the first round, but also some new things being brought along to the party as well.
As you say, I think that, potentially they're just going to be looking to double down on what they did previously, but they don't want Na'Vi just being able to completely read into that. G2, of course, got that big opener last time around. Saves getting taken down. Saves actually been very quiet so far today. He's picked up 1 kill, but not had too much of an impact. And I think that's been the length of the rounds. Quite often we see Saves' impact coming in the late round, as those final 20-30 seconds is, where he lives up to his name, essentially, and he comes in and quite often saves the round, but he just hasn't really had the opportunity so far today. We'll see if he can maybe get himself a little bit of space and have a bigger impact on this game. But once again, Dorky pushing in super aggressively on the Iana.
He's getting himself droned in as well by a couple of supporting players around him at this point, but now that he's got entry in through gaming, onto drones himself he goes, just to make sure this ground floor is cleared out. And rather than worrying about the north side of the map here, they've appeared to work instead down towards the south. So opting not to get stuck inside a trophy and solar as they did in round 1. It's an entirely different attack coming out of Na'Vi because it gives them a little more breathing space.
Hungary just applying one of those frost traps quite late into the round, but that could actually be a smart move because, of course, the drone-in has largely happened at this point, and if drones aren't then sent through sight again, which there's not always a reason to, they may well not pick up on that, and it could be crucial in the late game. For the time being, though, Blur is still focusing on that top floor. He's going to be opening up the office balcony wall there. It's a little bit of a tricky one. It takes a little bit of work on the Maverick. He's going to burn down that right-hand side and across the bottom, join them up, and then we will see that whole wall drop away and open. But he's just being cautious. He knows that somebody's playing in there with the Nitro. Out it comes, it gets caught on the wall. Now, we did see that threaded through that gap yesterday, but unable to hit his shot there today.
Well, they've got the top side, with the office wall being opened up to put pressure onto Virtue and Citizen, who are playing up there. We've got the dining wall now opened up on the south side as well. But again, I want to hark back to just how much information we've got. There are 3 members of G2 currently sitting through cams, just gauging where is the push coming from? What have we got to deal with here? And once they identify where 3 or 4 players are, they can adapt where their players are playing. Do we fall back onto site? Do we push aggressively on the top floor? They can start making decisions, but they're sitting here and just waiting to see what Na'Vi do so they can react.
Blur just holding that angle through to Piano now. They know that Jonker's playing inside of there, but haven't been able to move him yet. And with 50 seconds left to go, it's likely that the Mute just plays his life out here, and he's just again trying to prevent that top floor control, because the danger, of course, being once that diffuser goes down or the attempt is made, he can move across and challenge that vertically, but unable to do that whilst the Maverick of Blur is there. So it's just this chess game of waiting for one piece to move and make way for the next. But for the time being, Na'Vi building pressure.
No one on the side of Na'Vi sat on drones right now, and you've got Virtue looking to creep his way up the main stairs, and sure enough, Doki comes and face checks it, and his face gets removed. Virtue now on the backside is going to give a lot of threat onto Secretly. He's going in for the plant. If Virtue goes now, he might be able to find him at range. It depends if the cover is there. Citizen finds Secretly. Hungry finds one onto Nate. It looks like it's all going to be lights out for Na'Vi. They have been caught in G2's trap, and what a wonderful round playing off information that has been. There is nothing Blur can do. G2 with a very comfortable round, and again, I really want to commend them. They let Na'Vi do what they wanted. They could open up walls, no problem. G2 sat back, played the information game, and capitalised when it felt right. Wonderful play.
Na'Vi never got control of the top floor, and it cost them. You know, Citizen able to deny that plant attempt. If he doesn't, it's probably Virtue from main stairs. As you said, the opportunity was there for him as well after he got that opener onto Doki. Honestly, G2 had the answer to absolutely everything there, Des. That is the only way to describe that defence. Everything that Na'Vi tried to push, everything that they tried to find a gap in, every time they tried to move in and take control of something, G2 were able to just move slightly, adjust slightly. The plan was flexible, and they were able to hold on to those key areas. Really well played from G2.
What I really like is this looks very reminiscent of the Empire style that we saw coming out of Na'Vi versus Empire last week, where Empire didn't have to play a super proactive game and be hyper aggressive and disruptive, because Na'Vi so often would leave little holes in their setups that Empire then exploited. Think about, for example, when Joystick went crouch walking down Shower Corridor on Oregon, killed the two players that were in Shower because Na'Vi didn't leave anyone on the Shower's window. It feels very similar here, where G2 are like, right, you guys do what you want to do, we'll wait for an opportunity and then we'll take it. And that is probably the best way I can summarise G2 here, is they're being opportunistic. Na'Vi are presenting far too many of those. They need to close those gaps in the armour and start getting things more aligned, because it just feels like something is missing in every attack so far.
It does. Just a very small point, a very small note. It's nice to see the elites and the artwork and stuff coming back in to the operator pick menus. Of course, for a while now, those skins haven't been able to be used at pro play, so we've not really seen too much of that sort of stuff. But now that we've had that great change within the game that allows you to customise those options, so if you don't know, go and check it out. You can customise your player cards, you can customise your uniforms, your win celebrations, and you can use an elite win celebration without using the whole elite skin, maybe. You know, there's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do, but it's been really nice to see. We've seen the animations coming back at the end on the win screens when we've had the MVPs, if they've had the elite animation selected, but we've also had the player cards with the nice little backgrounds and everything else coming out. It's nice, I like it.
I think clearly G2 have identified that the message to Na'Vi is stop hitting yourself, because they're playing the same sort of lineup again. One bulletproof, the Maestro and the Valkyrie, leaning very heavily on the information game and looking to capitalise on mistakes from Na'Vi that they can identify through all of that utility. So let's keep a close eye on what Na'Vi do, because flank drones for me are the big thing I want to see coming out of that tactical timeout. You've had a chance to chat, you know where the issues are now. Let's see those amended so you can get back a couple more rounds on the attack. Is 3-3 on Chalet okay? It's okay. You'd be looking for 4-2 as the attackers, really, but at this point, you'll take anything you can get knowing that you're already down 3-1.
Yeah, not the end of the world. I think, sometimes maps do just have a little bit of a flip on any given day, and you might just see the defenders getting a bit of joy on Chalet. Not too unusual, but right now, I don't think it's so much about attack and defence for Na'Vi. It's about, again, just sorting out the cracks that they've got, because there are mistakes creeping in there. They're not taking the map control that they need. They're not always forcing G2 out of position, and whilst G2 are allowed to play like this, they will continue winning rounds. That much you can guarantee. Citizen's got a lovely outside Valkyrie cam there, and just feeding that information back in.
Oh, I mean, Virtue, I was going to say, who's going for it? It was Virtue at a trophy window, but the man has already moved back inside there. Typical, you sit and watch him on cameras for 30 seconds, and when you go for the run out, the man's left.
I know that feeling all too well as a Valk player, but We're going to have now Blur getting access into Mezzanine. So this is pretty good from Na'Vi. They've got Library, they've got Library Corridor, they've got Mezzanine. They've got all that side locked down. They can think about the breach on that office wall, which Blur is now going to begin. And with only a minute 30 gone, that is good timing. Secretly actually steps up and says, don't you worry, I'll make this nice and quick, and we'll get that exothermic down on the wall, get it cleared out, and we've now got access to that plant spot. So Na'Vi are ahead of the game here, Des. Halfway through the round, step 1 done, step 2 done. It's now time to think about step 3.
That was really cute, by the way. They dropped the EMP inside the bottom corner of Piano just to disable the mute jammer so they could recover a drone that was stuck in. They didn't take any other action off the back of it. It was just to free the drone to get it going through office, and I think it was Saves that's now inside of the plant spot because they need this drone information. You can see Nath watching the flank downstairs, but they weren't watching for Citizen. Secretly, the first to fall.
With only 4 drones, it's very important that they're keeping hold of them, and that's not something they're managing. Down to only 2 drones now on the side of Na'Vi, Des. So this last 40 seconds is going to be played largely blindfolded, but Blur, he manages to find the headshot onto Citizen. Doki just playing on that bathroom window. Not going to have anybody just exposed to him at the minute, though. He's going to look to hold down and pick up those late rotates in the last 20 seconds, but Kayak, he could play major spoiler here, Des. He's on the main stairs. I'm not sure Na'Vi are aware. Jonka finds the man from Piano. Doki onto Virtue, and the kills are just raining in right now, but it's G2 that are supreme. 2 versus 2, but here comes Kayak. I don't think Na'Vi are aware of this, and it's all down to Blur. He's got a man behind, he's got a man on the side. This is not going to be easy for him. He takes the first challenge, gets 1. Can he find the second? Yes, can he find the third? No! Shut down by Jonka right at the end. A valiant attempt from Blur, but unable to close out the round for Na'Vi.
4K from Yonka there at the dying moment of things as well, and we've seen this now in several rounds where Blur is the last man left alive playing on the Maverick. Also worth noting, for most of the year, Blur has been more in kind of a flex position, sometimes leaning in towards support, but rarely dedicated on the hard breach. That's been like Secretly a Nath, for example. So clearly, some ideas being tested here in role swaps as well that, not at all to pile the pressure on Nath, but last week a few times he was playing Hibana and he was going down second in the round, dying as the entry, and I was like, mate, you can't be dying on the Hibana so early on. So maybe a bit of a change here to try and test that theory and see if things can work out differently. Sadly for Na'Vi, it's still yielding the same result as last week, and we saw it there, right? They didn't have Piano control. The mistiming was slightly off there where Doki couldn't get in and contest the Piano player. They shut down the planter. It's again just missteps by Na'Vi. Small things being for, I don't say small things, they're pretty major. Piano is like the biggest point to contest here on the top floor. Don't get control of it. Don't contest it in time. Your planter dies trying to go in for a plant. Question marks to be asked.
But this is it, if you... Yes, you can level a little bit of the blame towards the support or the hard breach who's dying on entry, but you've also got to look at why that's happening, Des, because generally speaking, you support your hard breach, they're going to be drawn in the entry players in for starters. They're not necessarily going near the interior of that map for the first minute and a half. They're on the drones, they're providing that information, that utility. So at that point, if they're moving in and it's still 5 versus 5 and they're taking the entry death because they have to start playing towards that objective, you've got to ask what's happening with your entry game. Why are you not then getting that man advantage early so they're not going into those perilous situations? It's I think an indicator of a wider problem if you're going in there and always losing your support as an entry death.
Well, that used to be the way it was when Nath was playing on the Hibana, but like I say again this week, that has kind of changed. I know Secretly was the one going in for the plant, so you can sort of forgive the death coming out there. I'm kind of curious why they haven't opted to bring smokes at all on Secretly, by the way. You've banned away the Wamai, so you know in this case that you haven't banned it away, but the Wamai is banned away, so you know that really you're looking in towards the Jaeger and the Aruni. You maybe look at Aruni and go, is she really anti-nade? Yes, you do have other ways you can deal with it, but she is still something that can get in the way of you getting through grenades, for example. But playing behind those smokes, I think, would be really powerful, because if you can't control a sight line, just block it off and hope for the best, but that hasn't been a thing so far for Na'Vi, and I'm kind of concerned.
Doki looking to contest towards Library. That bulletproof camera that we saw placed there previously is going to be feeding the information in if he tries to push through double door. Citizen playing underneath will have Nitro in hand, so of course the opportunity there for a vertical kill as well once he knows that Na'Vi are established in certain areas. But for the time being, he's going to hold on to it and just try and support his players who are up above in Library. Now, things are going to get a little bit tense for Hungry, I think, as he's Just trying to hold on for the time being. He's the man on the very front line here.
There's 3 players all running around downstairs at the minute. I think they've still got one more C4. Nope, yep, sorry, one more in the back pocket of Citizen still, who is on the downstairs. You can see him there on your screen. If he gets this in the right place, it's going to spell disaster for Na'Vi. I think this one's a bit more hopeful. Maybe it's more pre-placed. They should have these cameras out again. Not leaning in towards a Maestro here, but they do have the Mozzie. So all this information is likely going to be coming in from those back eye cams. So keep a close eye on how this steps forward.
Utility piling in here, and Jonker forced back down those library stairs. Blur does not manage to find his kill though, as Jonker gets the opener there and gives G2 the advantage. But with 57 seconds left to go, Nath is able to get in and get one for himself. But as they've all gone, this round continues, trading back and forth as Virtue finds his 5th kill of the match so far, with another important mid-round moment to be able to give G2 that confidence, that momentum, that just gunpower going forward.
Blur getting caught out there is such a stinker as well. It was a great idea, because if he gets in there and gets control of the hallway, those on the downstairs that are playing behind those C4s, you pick up 1 or 2 kills, but didn't quite have the fortune of timing on his side. The player coming down library stairs collects him and closes it out. Now Doki stepping in from an alternative direction, coming in from the top side here, sees one but can't quite connect the kill, and now they know that Doki has pushed his way down. But who's he looking for on site here? Nath dropping in at the same time. Doki is shut down. The missed timings have stung Na'Vi once again. You're yet again seeing them lose 2 or 3 members in the last 10 seconds. G2 closed the half at 5-1. Not how you'd foresee a defensive half of Chalet going.
No, and this is really interesting, Des, because throughout stage 3, you know, without wanting to pile on, I've been saying that G2 need this second fragger. They need this second entry who is being effective alongside Citizen. So A, they're not completely reliant on Citizen's kills, but B, when Citizen does come out with a huge game, if you've got somebody up there along with him, you really start to power towards the win. Now Virtue, we've always been looking towards him to be that secondary player, and he just hasn't been able to deliver, at least not consistently. But this shows just how good G2 can be when that is happening, Des. 12 kills between Virtue and Citizen right now. They are absolutely flying as a duo. They're getting the entries. They're giving G2 the advantage. They're getting crucial kills at important moments. And right now, G2 look like they're cruising. They look unrecognisable almost.
Hungry had that 3k back in round 1, playing on the Frosting Kitchen. Yonka had his 4k up on the top floor as well, so even the newbies that are coming into the team are stepping up and doing work for them as well. And the scary thing is, it's not the Citizen show. Normally when we see G2 winning, it's because, although the rest of the team might be playing well, it's because Citizen is being his usual extraordinary self. But he's had a quiet half there. Less than 1 kill per round is unusual for him. It normally airing up towards the 2, it feels like, in most instances. So it's good to see the rest of the team rallying around, but again, I can't escape that feeling of, it's Na'Vi with the missed drones, it's Na'Vi with the missed timings, it's just all sorts of things going wrong that G2 are playing correctly, just as Empire did last week. Capitalise on the mistakes, don't go too crazy. You haven't got to go spawn peeking, for example, because it's Na'Vi that are making the mistakes. We'll see how it fares now the sides switch, though, and G2 are the ones stepping onto the attack.
One thing I am interested to see here from G2, and it's the contrast on that entry game between G2 and Na'Vi. You know, Doki would have been inside the map by now.
Oh, yeah.
He's inside the map, 15, 20 seconds. To be honest, it didn't really pay dividends. He wasn't picking up the entry kills. Na'Vi weren't gaining the map control. So G2 just foot off the gas a little bit, just taking things a little bit slower than Na'Vi were, and maybe setting themselves up, getting that foundation built before they go in. You know, making sure this is where our first challenge is going to be. Let's ensure that we're in a position to win it.
Absolutely. It's more team-based.
And they win it.
Summarise it. Of course
Thank you, Citizen.
And it's, I guess Secret is not really playing a supportive role here. He's playing on the Aruna. You are the Roma, really, in this lineup alongside Nath. And Nath does find one back. Saves a second. It's looking better for Na'Vi. They're keeping G2 pinned in to this north side of the map, and that's a great kill coming out of Virtue.
Citizen Virtue once again getting those kills. Virtue in the mid-round, exactly when G2 need it. He loses that fight. They're down 2-4 in terms of man advantage. It's a tough round. Now they've got every opportunity to be able to close this one out. Saves. He's going to take a peek on that library corridor window there. He's just looking over. He knows there's a man on the balcony, but guess what? Citizen knows that you're there too, and my money right now would be on Citizen today because he's absolutely flying in these gunfights. Gets aggressive, but the Kaid of saves. He's going to drop himself away and just try to hold a tight angle from off his balcony.
Absolutely. I mean, Citizen pushing up hyper-aggressive there and not opting to stick on the bathroom window as Doki did previously is a small difference in play. Just wanting to contest nice and close. They're not going to expect a man to be on the right side of the window. You think he'd be a little bit deeper, holding the bathroom window, so he could catch someone by surprise. But Na'Vi have lost interest at this point. They've stepped away. They don't want to hold there anymore, so things should change around. You've also got Citizen dropping down to watch onto West Main here. G2 in the final 60 seconds here. We've got to start seeing this plan come together.
Exactly. They're confident now that they've got that top floor control, so they can start trying to use those vertical angles to push around the defenders that are playing inside a site, maybe try and get an opportunity to get in and get that diffuser down. But I just hope that they are aware of Saves. He's still out there on that balcony and he needs to be watched, because otherwise he could really play a spoiler as he comes across to challenge Virtue.
You've got Kayak stepping in here kind of as the air quotes entry, while Citizen drones him in for a couple of seconds and now will step himself inside, sees the man at the back, but the perfect drop down the hatch, gets away from what would have been a surefire kill, and Saves strikes onto Virtue. Citizen, another. They should be able to find an angle to get the plant in here, but blocked out by the soft wall. Going to have to step their way around. Nath in the basement as well. They're like rats coming out of the sewer ace. Na'Vi striking big. Citizen left alone versus 2, and this will be a Na'Vi round.
Unfortunate for G2 because they did a lot of things well there. They found themselves 4 versus 3 in terms of man count, but were able to chip it back. Virtue got a kill, leveled things up, and then they were able to take top floor control pretty much. But the problem then came in for G2. They didn't keep a close enough track on exactly where and what Saves was doing. He was allowed to essentially just hide himself in a corner for a minute on that office balcony and then just waited for his opportunity to move back through and got a very important kill onto Virtue, because even at that point, if Kayak wins the fight onto Nath coming off the West Main stairs, yes, you've got a 2v1, but... and it's a big but, Saves has the vertical at that point, and you're running out of time and have to get that diffuser down. So it is all in Saves' hand to be able to deny that plant attempt from above without overexposing himself. So for me, well played from Na'Vi, a little bit sloppy from G2 in terms of just knowing exactly where Na'Vi were playing and who they needed to close down.
Now, we've got several very interesting things in this round. One, we're on Snowmobile, a site that we very rarely ever see inside of Europe. We've seen it in APAC a little bit, North America a little bit, but it's not really a thing here in Europe. The second really interesting thing is that we've got a castle. Now, you probably think, Des, it's a castle, so what? Well, it isn't because of the buff that he's now got 4 armor panels. It's more that what he enables defenders to do, that you can set up really interesting setups, and I think pretty much all of those castle barricades have gone up on the first floor here. One that you can see onto the double doorway, others aiming to protect them on this north side, and I believe Nath is currently trying to get the Kite Electro Claw inside of this table. If he gets it inside of there, it electrifies the wall downstairs like so, and if this isn't droned out by G2, they'll be left wondering, what the bloody Nora am I supposed to do? And look at this, a full 3-story setup. I love it out of Na'Vi.
That's it, Na'Vi just trying to be unpredictable, trying to waste a lot of time. Basically, that's what you're doing. If you're wondering why is a team setting up so spread across the map, the reason that you do it is to waste time. You're trying to force G2 to play in as many different areas at one time as you can down. Now, a vertical nade comes out from Citizen. He's not going to find his man. Does take a little bit of damage off Doki, but he's going to continue to fight up there on the top floor for the time being. Will get taken down, though, as Hungry manages to find that entry. A little bit of damage taken from himself there as there's another man up on that top floor, and Na'Vi, they're just not letting go of the map yet.
And why would they? I mean, a great first kill onto Doki. This is a problem that he's had. Yes, he's very quick on the entry to get himself into a strong position in the early round on attack. It's also sometimes the same on the defense, and here he finds himself coming out on the worst side of things. For Hungry, a great first kill coming in from the office balcony. I'm keeping a very close eye on the cat cam, mind you, because we know how things get when the time starts running down. We've already seen it out of Frostmats back in the first half. When you're ADS'd in, looking for heads, not for traps on doorways, and you walk into an untimely death, we'll keep a close eye on that the closer towards the end of this round we get.
G2 now down to 5 drones, still using them very actively to try and pick up on any defender positions that they can.
Okay.
Nath opens up the wall with a nitro there to try and get himself an angle. Will manage to make the challenge, but takes more damage than he dishes out. Needs to be careful and dip himself away from that fight, but it does just make it difficult for Virtue to play inside of the main lobby there. And as we're coming in towards the final minute, we've got 3 members of Na'Vi downstairs, and Nath is still unaccounted for on the Kaid, and is that going to be G2's downfall once again?
Well, Saves is out of there, and Nath is, still holding up here inside of Dining. We've already seen with that wall being opened up by the C4 that he can contest in towards the lobby and restricts G2 a little bit. Lots of problems being sprung by Na'Vi on G2 that G2 seem quite slow to respond to. So a little bit different to the first half of the map in terms of letting Na'Vi make the mistakes. But here, it's too many problems for G2 to deal with. They find Nath, it's their second in the round, and here comes the plant as well.
Much better from G2 with Virtue going and picking up that lone roamer, but Kayak is able to get the diffuser down as well, while G2 lose a lot of men in the process. We find ourselves now 1 versus 2. It's all up to Saves. He goes in. He's just going to bait this one out. I doubt he tries to stick this immediately. He's just looking to get those players to react.
Beautiful.
And the only reaction he's going to get is out of Hungry, which is that final kill, closing out the round for G2, and that's going to put them onto map point.
Quite high risk and straight to site, not worrying about clearing out the top floor, not worrying about Nath playing inside of Dining, for example. Just saying, right, get Summerville open, get the vertical control we need, which was just a few planks. When you step outside of bar, you can just see a few in front of you, and that's enough to remove those to give you some control and force the player out of connector. It's like G2 took control of the minimum amount they needed, solved a couple of the problems posed by Na'Vi, but didn't worry about getting rid of every single one. Sure, it looked like they were tripping up at points, but they still found themselves at match point. It's 6-2, and this is a completely different game to maybe what many would have expected coming into today, but G2, I think, are going to find themselves taking this map, Tim.
This is it, and it was G2's map pick, as we said, coming in. This was their choice. Maybe we see something slightly different out of Na'Vi when we get to Bank. Of course, I think we all have that result from Stage 3 ringing in our ears when Na'Vi played Bank. It was pretty one-sided. They took G2 apart, so G2 going to have to show us something considerably different than the last time we saw these two teams meet on that map. But right now, G2, they've got to be feeling happy, Des. This is not just about the map. This is about the fact that they've played pretty well. They've come in, they've recognised mistakes or opportunities from Na'Vi. They've been able to take advantage of them, and they've been pretty dominant, particularly Virtue, Citizen, in those gunfights. 18 kills between the two. Hungry and Jonker, a nice mid-line there, picking up 14 between themselves. Great play here from G2.
And Kayak kind of sitting in this supportive position as well. He was back in the first half, roaming quite a lot. They had Citizen, Virtue, and Kayak often being the ones out on the roam looking to cause a bit of trouble. So rather than sticking one more player out on the entry, they said, you know what, 3 of us will do just fine.
He might only have 1 kill, Des, but he also only has 3 deaths. And that is another key metric, is that survival rate. And as you say, if Kayak is sitting on that back line like a general, just marshalling the troops and being that IGL, making those calls in game about what is going on.
Commander Kayak.
Exactly that. Commander Kayak is commanding them to victory right now.
Doing a great job of it for sure. Let's see how this round plays out there. Blur, the one now looking to get a little bit cheeky. You're not going to find that drone, I'm afraid. No way is he trying to.
I mean, that's a quite extreme use of utility there for a drone.
I mean, fair enough.
And he didn't get it.
What else are you going to use it for at this point, I guess? Like, okay, we'll take it. You've not got any hard breach that you can remove off walls. It doesn't matter about the X-Kyros because there's so many of them. In comes a native. Kayak finds his bounce down, but almost finds defeat. Not quite doing enough damage to the shins to kill Kayak. And unfortunately for him, that grenade gets consumed by the ADS. So for now, at least, that shield on Library Stairs is safe, and Mezzanine still in the control of Na'Vi.
Blur finally manages to get his man as he takes the drone down. Wasted his utility, his bullets, but he gets there eventually. Now then, Citizen's going to take an awful lot of damage elsewhere in the map as G2 continue to prod and poke at this Na'Vi defence, but they've been unable as of yet to clear out Library Stairs.
So
and
you got
Blur and Nath are just having a field day right now.
They are, Nath not being pressured off here. Now that Kayak's out of grenades means he can just step across and through the soft wall. They've opened up the little, crouch height holes. They can shoot out those X-Kyros, so they're perfectly safe here. And again, Na'Vi are presenting challenges to G2 that G2 need to work through. They've gone through pretty much all of their utility here. 3 flashes, 3 of their frags have gone down. Now nearly all flashes have gone out. And here they should finally get control of Library Stairs. But my God, if it hasn't been without a lot of effort, no, it's still here. I thought those nades were going in for that, but no, he's still sat in this position, Ace.
And that was 3 G2 operators up on the roof trying to clear that position out. That's utility, that's manpower, that's time, all burnt away by 1 deployable shield. So it just goes to show how important your setup can be in this game when we talk about how the defenders are shaping up. G2 are going to have little option than to go directly into site here and try and win gunfights. And I'll tell you now, they're not going to.
There's a great joke here about how many G2 players it will take to change a light bulb, but here it's about winning a round. Secretly finding a second straight away as Hungry goes down. And this is where you see how these problems start start to affect the end of the round. They've lost 3 members here because they couldn't get the critical control they need. You see why these critical power positions around the map are so important. They've got Mezzanine, they've got Library. G2 have struggled to get the fundamentals opened up here, and they will have no time. Kayak looking to find what he can. Find one on Mez. No, he will not. It's Blur to come in first here. A 4 versus 1, and I don't think Kayak's going to be able to clutch this one out. Sorry. Nope. Na'Vi close the round out. Better from them, but I put that a lot on G2 not being able to deal with the most basic parts of this setup.
Got to deal with that utility first and foremost. I think the problem came from trying to deal with it, and it's not unusual trying to deal with it from the window, off of the rooftop. You know, it's quite a normal process for the attackers to try and do that, but sometimes you'll see them gain control of office instead, open up the wall that gives them the long angle all the way down, and maybe it's a little bit easier to deal with that shield utility from that position. But either way, Na'Vi used what they were given fantastically well there, and it all resulted in G2 just having to rush things at the end. We just need to try and go in through windows now, get kills, see what we can do. But the problem is that they're playing into power positions. They've got Blur on Mezzanine behind a reinforcement, behind a deployable shield. It's such a difficult fight to win, and against a player like Blur, he's going to pick those kills up. It's bread and butter for him.
The small difference in lineup as well probably has a part on this. Na'Vi were playing Thatcher for a lot of the first half to deal with these choke points of utility they couldn't get cleared out, whereas on G2's side, they're not opting in to play that. They're still sticking on the 2 hard breach, but they really want that flank watch. They really want the Nomad on side to help them deal with any shenanigans that might come out of Na'Vi. But it feels like if they control Doki, they've kind of dealt with the aggressive side of Na'Vi, whereas you saw on G2's side, they had 2 or 3 players on their own. Virtue consistently coming through basement, up stairways, for example. Doki really feels like the only person trying to employ that style of play.
Doki going to be waiting for the action phase. Of course, they can't go out before that point because the windows have a little force field over them so that the defenders cannot impact on the exterior of the map until the action phase. But as soon as that ticks over, Doki getting that external cam out there. And Valkyrie is super powerful here on Chalet. You've only got to take a look around in front of you. Look at all those trees. Look at all those rocks. So many obstacles there to hide those things on.
I've never heard a man so excited about trees and rocks in my life.
You got, Des, you got to find excitement in the little things in this life.
Ace the geologist, apparently. So how things are going. What do you call someone who deals with trees?
Geology rocks.
No, what about trees? That's an awful joke. I've only just clocked on.
I just let that one settle for a little while.
You're good mates with X. What
Fresh was in stitches over there, but there's a number of different roles. It depends what you're doing with the trees, doesn't it? You know, you could have like
I didn't know until I spoke to X. They're called tree surgeons.
Yeah, there's tree surgeons. There's I think there's foresters. Forestry.
Well, forestry is a profession.
Forestry is a profession, but I don't know what you'd be called as an individual.
We'd know from our week as a farmer.
Forestry, we would. You know, there's all sorts of different roles when you're working with trees.
Well, there you go. We'll leave it at just geology then, and we'll forget about talking about trees. We can get excited about rocks, Ace, and about how this round is going to play out. For G2, at least, again, we're looking at these problems being dealt with, the ones that Na'Vi have thrown up in front of them, and what they can do to get around it. Not quite as much information being brought out by Na'Vi as what we saw from G2 in the first half. You've got the Valkyrie, you've got the 1 bulletproof, no Maestro, like we saw coming out of G2.
Virtue using that vertical angle for an absolute freebie onto Nath inside of sight, and this is why the verticals are so important. Great start from Virtue again, good start for G2. What they've got to do now is they've got to power on, they've got to use that advantage, use that manpower, start swarming all over Na'Vi. Don't let them settle in now, and that's exactly what Virtue's doing. He's looking for more, he's opening up more vertical angles. Out goes the Nitro, he will get the down. Doki will be unaware of that. Of course, the pro players don't have the points on like you do at home, so they won't know necessarily that the man is down, but it is certainly going to stop that destruction for the time being.
It saves Ratting once again. Last time it was out on the mezzanine balcony, struck true there and got a kill onto the man playing up on top floor, and here comes the jump out as well. Does he see the man? No, he doesn't, but the swing comes in from the other side. Hungry, not quite able to connect the shots, but saves, had his opportunity, tried to take it and missed it. Virtue back up on his feet, so G2 are still 5, but the clock is only 30, Tim. We know how it's been in a couple of round innings for both teams so far. This has got to step up now.
Cities are managing not only to take the chip damage that it first looked like onto Secretly, but also also finding that kill, and you just feel like they're on the downhill slope now. Out comes the Nitro to completely zero effect from Saves. He looks to make the challenge, shut down by Citizen. Kayak straight into sight, sees his opportunity, getting that diffuser down. It's all up to the final two members of Na'Vi here as they need to fight back. Doki 1v3. If anybody can, we know it's this man. He finds the first, but not the second. Closed down by G2, who close out Chalet and get themselves the first map on the board.
Much better coming out of GT from what we've seen in all of Stage 3. Admittedly, yes, at points you look at Na'Vi and say you're giving G2 a little bit too much of an in several of those rounds, but you can't ignore the scores on the door. That's a pretty emphatic performance coming out from G2 overall. Very reactive on the defensive side, on the attacking side, sure. Slipped up once or twice, but still got themselves in a commanding position most of the time. That means Bank is going to be our next map, and I'm excited to see how that one plays out, given it is a Na'Vi map pick.
Well, it is a Na'Vi map pick, and if we think back to what happened last time when we saw these two teams meet, the reason that Na'Vi won is that G2 could not handle them on their own. They could not shut them down. They could not stop Na'Vi playing all over the map. That's something that I've just seen from them again on Chalet. We saw Saves a couple of times have those opportunities, so they're going to have to tighten that up.
This is why they doubled down the Nomad, let's not forget as well. Hungry bringing that in every single attacking round in place of the Thatcher. It worked out for them for the most part. They dealt with Doki pretty well. And Saves, yeah, a couple of rounds, but enough to make enough of an impact to keep Na'Vi competitive. Sadly not. Let's go to a quick break, and when we come back, we will have our analysts break down that map for you.